go through some troubleshooting stuff, and then we'll do how to do manual stuff. Okay, so again, I'm gonna log out. So now if we want to get into the troubleshooting side of it, or the manual loading or transferring of products, we're going to use site admin. Okay, that's 111. Don't share that passcode with anybody. Enter, log in. Okay. So now you can see there's a few more buttons. And then if you go into these things, okay, so now you have changeable fields on here. If you go into the operators portion, these aren't here. So again, these are the set points for the tank. So at 200, if it gets below 200, it's just going to recirculate until it gets above 200, because it doesn't want to draw down any lower than 200. Otherwise, then you'll have the chance of cavitating the pump or whatever. So that's kind of what these set points are telling you. And then 300 is when it's going to stop putting water into it. But to be honest with you, you guys will never run into that issue because your water pressure is like not that great. So you'll never see it. I'm guessing you'll probably never see it go over 300 when you're making brine. But if it does, it will go to 350 and then it'll stop putting water into the tank. Okay, it's 300, but we put a 50-point cushion, so it'll go to 350 and then it'll stop putting water in there. And it might do that if it's really low concentration, then it probably will get up to 350. But if it does that, you know you'll need salt. If this ever goes to 350 and stops putting water in there, it's a pretty good sign that you need salt. So just kind of keep that in mind. Okay, so we'll go out of this page because this is we went through all that. But the buttons that were added are the manual, access log, system log. Okay, so access log, just real quickly. If you guys wanted to get really involved with it, you can each have your own name and your own passwords. Okay? And that can be done here. Access, add account, delete account. So let's say you want to add account. You just put your name in there, you put your own password, and then you give yourself site admin privileges. Again, you're probably not going to do this, but that's what you'd have to highlight each one of those. Okay? And that's in the manual too. It goes through how to do this. Okay, system log. This is just telling you on a seasonal basis how much brine you've made. Maybe today you want to reset this. I don't know. I'll leave that up to you. Take it back to zeros.
Please, yeah.
So, I mean, if you guys have all that stuff written down somewhere, you just come in here, reset it, boom, back to zeros, and then these two buttons here are the daily. Okay, so let's say you made 5 batches today, you'd go in here and be listed. So it's giving you the last date you made brine. 10/6/2022, you made 2,000 gallons. Okay, so if we made brine today, it would start over and it would show today's date, the batches produced. Same thing with the truck fill log. Okay, this is what we did out there.
So how about the daily, like if we were in a storm at the end of the shift, and I want to see how much went out during that shift.
Truck fill daily log.
Truck fill daily log.
Okay, so, and now this is going to get into the computer side as well. Once we talk to IT and we go inside, I'm going to show you how to pull that data off your computer inside.
Okay.
As a folder, save somewhere, creates Excel spreadsheets of anything we do on here. Okay. So that's that, and then we will do the manual page. Okay, so You're gonna have to acknowledge that any of the functions you change on this page must be changed back to base condition before leaving page, which means anything you change on this is gonna stay that way. Okay, so look at it here, everything's closed, right? All the valves are closed, and this guy is the most important one. It's in tank. Tank means this salt tank right there. So that's the key, because this guy right here is this valve up here, which directs it either to the salt tank or the storage tank. But it's not, you know, if you do it here and you're making the brine making process, obviously it's from salt to brine, and that's what it'll look like when you're making brine. But if you change this to panel, all you're doing is you're telling this valve that you're going to be sending liquid to this guy, to this panel over here. And now it's up to you to choose what it's pulling from and where it's going. Okay? So let's say you made a batch, you notice it's getting super dirty, and now you got a bunch of liquid sitting in there, and you want to get rid of that liquid out of there so you can stand in there and maybe scoop rock out of there or whatever. And now you have, you know, this much water in there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to say I want to take that from the salt tank, okay, and I'm going to run it to the panel, and then I'm going to put it to a brine storage. Okay, so I'm opening that one. And then I'm starting my pump, and regardless of salinity, it's just going to pull the water out of that guy and put it into your brine storage. Just a way of drawing down water out of the tank, rather than dumping it on the ground. Okay, a couple 100 gallons of brine in your storage isn't going to, you know, more than likely it'll be close to concentration anyway. Okay, so that's just a way of manually taking the water out of that guy. And I usually just run it down until I hear the pump cavitate and stop it. Okay, then you've drawn down most of the water out of your tank and put it in storage rather than running it into the stream out back.
And
We
then we
can't-
should be able to see that on the other screen, where the water level is, right?
Yes, yep.
Do we have a tank? Can we do that?
What's that?
Change all that water and put it, do we have a tank to put that in?
Yeah, that's the brine storage tank.
Outside.
Oh, the ones that, oh, okay.
It's just putting in storage regardless of salinity.
Oh, I see.
That's all, we're just doing it manually. Okay, so now, let's do this example over here. I'm gonna put it back to normal. And we're gonna say, we wanna take it out of this blend tank because obviously we're not using blend out at the truck fill station. But we wanna put it into, what is that, add one? I think add one, right? No, add two.
Add two.
Add two.
So we want to take it from tank 3 to tank 2.
Yeah.
Blend to add to 2.
Okay, so we're gonna say from blend, right, to the panel, and then on here you're gonna say to add to. Okay, so you're just choosing your tanks, but the crucial part of this is that you send it to the panel. Because if you say from blend to tank to add to, guess where it's going? It's going into that guy right there. So that's why it's crucial that you change that to panel, because you're directing it over to the panel of valves over here. That's how you gotta think of that panel, is this panel of valves. Okay, so you're changing it to panel, and then you're changing it to add to. Okay, now you've opened up the loop, and you start your pump, and you'll see that start to draw down. And if you want to see a change in, just go out to your make blend page, and you should see your blend numbers start to go down here, and your add to numbers start to go up there. Just a way of checking it. Okay. And once you're done, close everything and leave the page. Make sense? Okay, the other thing you can do here on this page is your water valve. Okay, so that's fresh water from the salt tank over there. You just open it up. Start putting fresh water in the tank. Okay, so let's say we're done March, we're gonna stop making brine, we're gonna shut it down for the season. There's really two ways of cleaning this thing out. You can hit the dilute valve, which is just injecting water, fresh water, down into the line here at the bottom. It's coming back around into the pump. Then obviously it's pointing towards the tank. So it'll just fill up all those lines with water and then run it out into the salt tank. Fresh water. Okay, and that's just gonna leave fresh water in the system.
That just at the end of the season?
Yep. Just 'cause you don't wanna leave brine in your pump for 5 months or whatever. Okay, you just wanna leave fresh water in it.
So Mike, we're actually using it to fill, when our alleys get real dusty. So we're actually just loading our trucks just with water.
Okay.
So is that having to be going through to get all that other brine out of there?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so like I said, we're using it actually to fill the trucks up with water.
Okay. So, and then the other way of doing it too is, obviously you clean this whole thing out, just fill it up to the screen with water, right? Come in here, open the from salt tank, make sure it's on tank, and turn your pump on. Now you're just circulating fresh water through the entire system and through all the lines of the salt tank. That's probably the best way of doing it. I just show the guys out in California this way because it uses less water. Here we don't have to worry about it so much. So that's probably the best way of doing it is just fill a thing with fresh water and let it circulate for 5 minutes and then just dump it out. Yeah, it takes everything out of the lines.
5 minutes is how long
Yeah.
it's good enough to clean the whole system up?
Yep. Okay, any questions on this page?
So Mike, how about recirculating, so, you know, geomelt and these, beet heats have a tendency to, additives have a tendency to settle down. How often do you think we should recirculate the product? Monthly, weekly?
I would contact the manufacturer.
So
I mean,
let's
I
just
don't-
say we wanna do it monthly, so if we just wanna stir everything up, you
Okay,
know.
so that's a great question. So let's say
Do we have to do that manually, or is
Yeah,
there?
so you have research operations, right? So let's say we're gonna schedule an act 2, okay? So let's just pick a good time. Somebody will be in here, let's say right after lunch. Let's say 1 o'clock, then at 2, and you'll schedule the tank. Okay? So I said at 1 o'clock, added to 2. You look here. So now I have add 2 on my schedule for 1 p.m. to recirculate.
And that'll be today?
So now we put that in the schedule.
Okay.
All we're doing is start recirculation. Okay? Recirculation enabled. Now it knows at noon or 1 o'clock that it's gonna recirculate for 15 minutes.
It'll shut off by
Okay?
itself.
And it'll do that every day at 1 o'clock. Okay? So all you gotta do is stop recirculation. Okay?
It takes it out.
It's not gonna clear the calendar out, right? So now, once a month, you can come in here
And hit the button.
and hit the button. At 1 o'clock, it'll recirculate for 15
But
minutes.
you couldn't do it by a date.
Nope,
It just be a time.
it's just a start and stop.
Time and then start and stop.
You know, so
Specific
let's say
time.
for a week, you wanna circulate at 1 o'clock, just leave it on for a week.
Will that do the blend tank? Oh, it will do the
You
blend
can
tank too,
set it
right?
up, yep, you can
Okay.
do all that stuff.
So at 1 o'clock, we could do the additive 1, 2 o'clock, do additive 2.
Exactly. So,
You can't do 2 tanks at the same time? It
No.
doesn't circulate.
So.
It'll start blending it. I don't know.
So there it is, so 1 o'clock add 2, 2 o'clock blend. You're setting up a calendar, and most of the time you set up the calendar, because these guys have maybe their salt tank and their tanks outside.
Real quick, so once you get us going on the computer, can that be done by the computer?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, you can sit at your desk and start recirculation.
Okay.
Maybe you put a notice on your phone or something like, oh, you need to recirculate it once a
Yeah.
month.
Put a monthly calendar on the,
Yep. Okay, so that's in there. So now you just have to start and stop it. That's it.
and 15 minutes is enough for,
For sure.
okay.
Yep.
So what does it actually do? So is it actually drawing it out of the tank and
Yes, it's pulling it through your pump.
pulling it through the pump and sending it right back?
Yep.
Okay.
So, with that being said, and that being beet heat, which is it's very nasty stuff, especially on pumps, because it's got this fine, I don't know, it's almost like sand. I don't know what they put in there, but that stuff is pretty gnarly. So what I would do, if you are gonna schedule that at 2:30, schedule the brine.
Afterwards, to flush everything?
Yeah.
Or
'Cause
should we-
otherwise,
or
what's
should we
gonna
use
happen?
straight water?
No, use brine
Use brine?
during the season, obviously,
Okay.
right? Cause then you'll leave brine in the system once you're done recirculating all your additives. You don't wanna leave beet heat sitting in there cause what if you do it and then all of a sudden you're not gonna use the machine for 2 weeks? For 2 weeks, you have beet heat sitting in there, which gums up all the valves, whatever.
It sure is,
It's just nasty stuff. So, yeah, always schedule a brine right after that. Give it a rinse. And then, just so you know, what's gonna happen too is, like, let's say you do this every day. Like, some guys, for some reason, they just like recirculating for some reason. But you're taking, you're filling all these lines with product, additive, and then you're doing brine. Well, guess where that additive's going? It's going into your brine tanks. So these guys will do this where every single day it's recirculating their blend, and then they're doing brine because they want to do all 3 tanks. And they're saying, I don't have any additive left at the end of summer. Where does it all go? It's like, well, it all went into your brine tank. Because that's where it's sitting in these lines, and now all of a sudden you're putting brine through it, it just kicks it right into the brine tank. So slowly, 5 gallons, 10 gallons at a time, depending on your length of lines, it's emptying your additives and putting it in your brine tank. So, don't go crazy on it once a month. But that's what'll happen if you do it every day.
So can I set it up? So could you set me up right now for, so all I gotta do is, so we'll say 7:30.
7:30 a.m.
Yeah,
Yep.
we can do the blend tank.
Blend, schedule, and then do
Then we'll do additive 2 at, 8 o'clock.
and then brine at 8:30.
And then, wait, no, there's one more.
Oh,
And then,
add 1,
add 1
okay?
at, like a half hour after that?
Yeah, I always do, put a 15-minute break in between each one. And then do brine last.
And then do brine last. Now all we have to do is hit start.
38. There, blend, add 2, add 1 brine, all 15 minutes apart.
so can you show the guys from the home screen how to, if I ask them to come down and just, start the program?
Research operations, right hand corner, hit it, start. And then look for the purple scrolling.
I got a question. If this was left on and you're making product, what would happen?
It would pause.
So it wouldn't.
It would override.
So
If
that
you-
would
if
stop.
Circulation would stop, right?
Yes.
And then if we, all of a sudden,
If it,
hey Pat, I need you to make brine, or whoever made brine, the brine would take it.
you know,
Okay.
But then it would start back like
After,
the
after
next,
it's done.
if it
No.
was still in that time range.
in that time frame, it
Yes.
would start back, but
Yep.
if not,
It would just
it would
skip
kick
it.
it up the next day.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And it, I mean, honestly, if you're gonna make brine, just get rid of it, stop it.
Yeah. So I'm thinking like the first Monday of the month, let's come down here and recirculate everything, so we'll just come in and,
Yep.
so once a month I think is sufficient.
Sure.
And it's already scheduled.
It's already scheduled.
Alright, perfect.
And again, that, if, in the operator's manual, it goes, you've got how to do that, so if you want to change it. Okay, so I think I went through everything on this page. The only thing we want to go into is setup. Okay, setup is like more of the troubleshooting stuff. Honestly, most of it's already set up. But, so, this says enable what you guys are using. You should have to touch or turn off any of those. If we go through all these great buttons, the key one here is the pressure transducer configuration page. That's PT config. So PT means pressure transducer, and that's those little silver guys on top there. Okay, so if you go in here, this is the actual reading right here on the right-hand side. That's the reading that's giving us back right now from every one of them. So the salt and the brine, like if that PT goes bad, those are gonna read 3200.
Yes, we're in the brine.
So if something's not working, like let's say the salt tank's not,
Yes.
it adds water, nothing's going up or whatever, this is where you wanna come look.
Okay, sounds good.
To see if that's 3200, because that means your transducer probably failed. It's some electrical connection went bad, either the wire got pulled out or something happened where the pressure transducer is not giving you a reading. Okay, so that's 3200. That's the key number on those.
So that tank back there, when it wasn't working, it said 3200?
So these three will be 0. And it's only because these three guys, the blend, add 1 and add 2, are wired in to the box down here. And the salt and the brine are wired into this guy here. And these, for some reason, give out a different read, which is 0. Okay, so the top two, salt, which is the salt tank, the yellow salt tank, the brine storage, which is outside. That's those top two. And then these 3 tanks are right here, will all read 0. Okay, so now let's say it has a leak, or like I said, those tubes are all pressurized. So when you put in those pressure transducers, you tighten it down enough because there's an O-ring and it's sealed on top of that, and that created a pressurized tube. So if those start leaking and it all runs out, these will read around 3900. So those are the 2 numbers to remember. 3200 is like an electrical failure. You probably need a new transducer. You need to check the wires. 3900 means there's some sort of leak in those tubes. And the same thing here, these will just go to 0. So the best way to check these 3, to see if there's a leak in it, is to pull the tube out, where it's out of the water, and then slide it back down in there, and then reconnect the connector. And if it's, a slow leak, it'll give you a reading, but just let it sit there for, 4 hours, and come back and take a look at that PT reading. If it's gone down, then you know that it's a leak. If it's if you recharge the tube and you come back here and reconnect everything and it's still 0, then obviously it's a problem with the wire or the transducer. Okay, so that's the way to check these, is just pull them out all the way out of the liquid. And obviously if you pull that tube out and you hear a lot of water drain out of that tube, pretty good chance you have a leak. If you pull it out and nothing comes out of it, it's probably your transducer.
Does it happen often, or is it a rare thing?
It's more outside. You'll see it more, the more failures outside, just because those transducers are sitting up there usually uncovered and exposed to the elements. So, you know, you get sideways rain, it'll maybe corrode the wire. Mostly it's corrosion is what causes it to fail. It's those little connectors inside that, you know, fail and the wire breaks out. So, probably in here you'll never see it. Unless somebody like cavemans the thing off and breaks it all the hell. So what I was telling you, so this is what happened to that one up there. Looks like a rat chute on it. But what I'm guessing what happened is somebody went up there and instead of like trying to screw it off, I don't know if you can see it up there. See there's a little silver, that connector, there's a little silver piece that sits on top of it. That's where you unscrew it. Don't grab the connector on top and try to unscrew it. You gotta grab that little silver nut and unscrew it from there. So what I'm guessing is somebody went up there and grabbed the elbow and just twisted it, just shredded the thing. Broke it. So you just gotta unscrew it and pull it straight up.
Tighten it back, it's just a hand.
And then hand tight, yeah, you don't, I mean, don't, you know, like I said, don't caveman it. And there's a little keyway on there that you have to line up with the connector and here. And you know, it won't screw down unless you have that keyway lined up. Okay.
So if it happens outside, to recharge it or whatever, you just have to have the tube outside of the water. Once you replace that, get the tube outside of the water, and then you could just slip it back. So we didn't have to take the whole thing out,
You
technically.
do, because once you take that tube out, so let's say you would take that tube out, or take the pressure transducer off the top and left that tube in there, and then put the transducer back on there. You haven't charged the tube because.
No, but I'm saying, like, technically, let's say it's halfway. If we would have taken the tube out, taken it out here, you know, once it,
You wouldn't have.
just outside
I
of
see
the
what you're
water.
saying. Yeah. Yep,
Put it on,
Yep.
and then just put it back in.
exactly. So I think that's kind of covered it. I mean, that's really the main thing you guys will have to troubleshoot is this pressure transducer stuff. And like I said, most of it's inside. That brine one out there, I mean, I know it's a lo-fi fix, but take a water bottle, cut it off and slip it over the top of it. You know, it just keeps,
Cover them all.
it keeps air, you know, to dry it out, but it keeps it from getting snow and rain directly on top of it, sitting on it. So I just usually, you know, like, especially if these are sitting outside, I tell them, just put a, you know, water bottle over the top of it. That protects it pretty good usually. Okay, and then just get a little more in depth on this reset button. I'll hit an e-stop and I'll just show you what this looks like. These usually don't fail, but just in case, you guys come back here. A couple at a time. See how this button is out right there? These two. This is your safety relay here. So we got one button on there, it says fault. If I clear this, and then hit reset.
What color is it?
Now I got 3 lights. Okay, only got 1 light. 2 lights are out. It's just a way to check, you know, if the pump doesn't start and you hit reset, just come back here and check this guy. Okay, so like if there's something wrong in your main power box, like maybe the overload is tripped or something, it's not gonna let that reset. So if you've hit reset and your pump won't start, just come back here and check this. You know, it's better than opening this guy to look for stuff, because this is the electrician's domain. You guys should never be in this box because there's 240. You know, you can get zapped pretty good.
Alright, so 1 light is good, 3 lights is bad.
3 lights is good.
Oh, 3 lights is good, okay.
1 light is bad.
Alright.
Okay, so if I clear that, see, I can see the 3 lights come on.
Okay.
It's just another way of visually checking stuff. You know, I've never seen one of those relays go bad, but it's just more of a, if it doesn't reset, you probably have like a tripped overload or something, it's maybe a blown fuse, something in this box that, you know, can tell me that, hey, yeah, there's probably something going on in here. That's
Okay.
what I'd have you check, is say, hey, do you have 3 lights on your safety relay?
Okay.
So just to know where it's at.
Is there anything to look for back here as far as like that
Yes.
screen right there and
So I'll get into this guy just a little bit, but the main thing to look for on this guy is, let's say you're running it and you never get up to concentration. You know you have enough water, you know you have enough salt, but that thing just sits there and it'll sit at like 19% usually. So what's going on is this guy right here is the temp probe. So it's separate of this guy, and it's feeding right in here. It's telling you your temperature right there. It's 58.4 degrees. And that's measuring the temperature of the brine right at this spot here. What will happen if I take this cap off? These little wires right there, just due to vibration over time, I've seen them break off inside their little housing. And they'll just sit there and they'll intermittently like stop giving a signal, and it'll cause that temperature to spike to like 300 degrees or something. Okay? So it's just something to look for. If brine's not getting concentration, come back here and look at the temperature. I've seen it like 3 or 4 times, so it's definitely worth telling you about.
Okay.
Because they make these wires, there's about 3 strands of copper on them.
And that's safe to, how much power is in that?
Nothing, it's 24 volts.
24 volt?
Yeah, it's DC power, so.
Okay.
I mean, obviously, you go in there, you know, just tap the wire.
And if you see it come back
See if
to
it fluctuates or
concentration?
do anything. Turn the machine off, restrip the wire very carefully and put it back in there.
Okay.
Self-explanatory. But that's just all kind of stuff I've seen. And obviously don't, you know, we'll run this up, we'll put salt in it, we'll make brine today. And I'll, you know, check the calibration on this guy once we're done doing everything here. Another thing that happens too is inside of all these valves, there's plastic seals on the stainless steel ball that moves back and forth. And over time, you'll get like salt or sand in there. It'll kind of wear them out. So what you'll see is slowly water will leak around them. And more than likely on this guy, it'll feed fresh water into the system constantly. And obviously it ends up back in your salt tank. Or this might leak by, or one of these valves might leak by, and you'll start getting product in your salt tank. So like, let's say you haven't ran your brine machine for a couple weeks, and you come in here and your salt tank's got a lot of liquid in it for some reason. More than likely, one of these seals is probably leaking by. And this is just stuff I've seen that happens over time. So if you notice that, let me know and I can send you out a repair kit.
Okay.
It's new seals. Takes like 5 minutes to replace
So what you
them.
pointed your finger at it?
Right here.
Yeah, no, the other one right to your left,
This is the dilute valve.
the dilute valve.
Yeah.
Okay.
Replace
'Cause
that one a couple
This
times.
is the one you know, that's moving all the time. It's like just sitting there shifting back and forth, so it has a tendency to fail. And then obviously this guy, because this one's always changing.
And what's the
back
upper
and
one
forth.
called?
That's the tank valve.
Tank valve.
Yep. And so, you know, the liquid's coming up through here, and there's a V in there, and that's moving back and forth each side. So that's usually the one that goes.
Is it basically a ball valve, Mike, or
It is a
something?
ball valve, yep.
It's a ball valve?
Yep.
So whatever we're running GT through will probably fail faster than the ones that water with brine are going
Absolutely. Yeah, and you're using mine salt, so I mean, you know, you're getting a lot of grit removal. And it happens. It doesn't happen very often, but, and it's usually a very slow leak. You won't notice it first, but if it sits for a time, and you know, if you leave your water on all the time, that's when you're gonna see it.
Okay.
I mean, the easiest fix is just turn the water off.
Well, like I said, we use
Yeah.
it during the summer to
Yep.
fill the
So-
trucks. It's a little faster
So it's
than.
running all the time.
Yeah.
Alright.
So is there a repair kit for the tank valve
Yep.
and the dilute valve?
Yep.
Are they different ones or are they basically the same?
I think these two are the same.
Okay, so if we call and said I need a
Yeah.
tank valve with a dilute
Yeah,
valve.
just tell me and I can direct you to.
Perfect.
So we have a parts line now. Our name's Lydia. She's getting pretty good at it, so. I don't see that number anywhere. At some point I'll text you guys the number that, or send you that parts number too.
Yeah. So Mike, when you get back, when you charge me out for the transducer,
Yes.
can you go ahead and send me some repair kits already? And so I
Sure.
just have one bill?
Sure.
So if you want to send me two dilute, if the dilute valve and the tank valve are the same,
Yep.
just send me
Well,
three.
I'll send you one for the water valve, the tank valve, and the dilute valve.
Well, send me two of each.
Okay.
I'd rather have it in stock that, you know, all of a sudden, because you know the worst time it's gonna fail, 3 a.m. in the morning, all of a sudden, one of the night crew guys, hey, there's water shooting out the back of the machine, and
Right. Yeah, and more than likely, it's just gonna, it'll bleed through, and like I said, it's gonna start filling the salt tank. That's where you'll see it.
The top one went a couple times, so that's.
What else can I
Okay.
tell you? So
the tank valve
okay,
one?
Yeah,
So
the
let's say when I was going through this, the concentration won't get up to, if it's not the temperature, I mean, this is pretty rare, but it could happen. You are using mine salt. If a big rock would get through somehow, I've seen it where like a piece of gravel got caught in the salinity meter. You would take this thing out,
Can you point to that?
this guy right here.
Okay,
So that's, you know, connected to here.
okay,
And basically if you take it out, it's like a little probe going down in there, and the end there's a donut. So the brine's going through the middle of that donut. And that's, you know, changing the electrical field, and that's what's giving you the reading.
okay.
But I've seen it where a piece of gravel got caught in that hole and impeded flow through the hole. So you'll see this thing is just going bonkers. It's going
So-
up and down all over the place.
So we're able to open that up?
So make sure you just, you know, close your two valves on your tank over there and pop that guy out.
Okay, and check it?
Just check it. And then when you put
Any-
it back in there, make sure it's, you know, the direction, you know, that the brine can run through it as it's going through the pipe. Don't turn it sideways, put it down in there.
Is any type of gasket in there that needs to be changed out?
It's a 3-inch gasket, it should be all right.
The normal, what we
Yep,
already
yep,
have?
Yep.
Okay.
And then on the end there, the yellow guy, that's a flow meter. So it's one directional, you know, you can't put it around the other way and it'll work.
Hey, John, can you point to the flow meter?
And then, you know, if you lift that lid up, there'll be, there's numbers on there. They're dirty. But you'll see it totalizing as there's liquid going through it. So obviously, if you get a no flow fault, go back out here. show you where it was at. So if your pump, you're trying to make brine, it keeps kicking out and keeps saying no flow. Get this fault up here. Set that guy. Okay, so if we go to setup, go to HMI config, then we'll go to FM config, which means flow meter. Okay, right there, when that's running, that'll give you a rate. Okay, if there's no rate showing up on there, the flow meter failed. Okay,
Is that a typical part that fails?
not really. I've never seen one fail, to be honest with you.
Okay.
The banjo one's pretty bomb proof.
And that's a banjo part?
Yep. Okay, so the other place to check that too is, let's say we go from salt to tank, start the pump. Okay, hear everything running. Okay, the other place to check it. If that light doesn't come on, then all of a sudden it gives you a no flow fault. You know, guess what? Flow meter's on. Okay, so if that flow meter doesn't come on, or that light, and it gives you the fault, clear it out, and then just to double check, start it up in the manual process after you've cleared everything, and just go into that flow meter and see that rate counting down there. That should, it'll never go off. It'll probably sit at 0. It's just a way to double check that. Okay, like my flow meter failed.
So, we're using mined salt. Does anybody use any kind of filter to stop
Oh,
the
yeah.
stones from
Yeah.
coming through?
Sure.
Because we've taken that pump apart and the color has just been
Oh, I'm
destroyed.
I'm sure.
So is that something worth doing, is putting an inline filter for that?
I'll leave that up to you guys,
But is that something that
but
a
there
lot of
are
people are
guys that
doing?
do it, yeah. You just gotta clean it like every 500 gallons. It's a total pain in the ass. Cause I mean, you're gonna get tons of sediment in there.
What it would give, it would, Longer,
Get a
loose-
big diameter one.
so
So you,
that.
so you
longer-
catch the, like, sand, you know? You obviously don't wanna catch micron, tiny, cause the thing would plug up instantly. But just to get the big chunks out, sure. And then with the way to do that is capture it, you know, coming on the suction side, and put a shut-off valve on each side. Then you can isolate it, change it out quick, put it back in, turn the manual valves up and start it back up again. But you just want to isolate it so, you know, you don't have 10 gallons of product dumping out every time you do it. But yeah, it's just an inline Y filter from Banjo. It's selling 2-inch and 3-inch.
Well, we actually have a filter, like when they bring beet heat in before,
Sure,
we got
yeah.
it filtered
See, 'cause
going
that
before.
beet heat is nasty.
Yeah.
There's some sort of sediment they put in there, I don't know what it is, but pumps do not like it. And then when it's cold outside, it turns into sludge. That beet heat.
Well,
not
that's
the
why-
beet
that's
heat,
why we
but the
keep it
beet
inside.
juice. The beet, like the actual beet product, I don't. Nasty stuff. But I think I've kind of gone through everything. Just let's go through the PTs just a little more in depth here, I guess. And I'll let you guys go, I'm sure. So this is the PT reading, right? So whenever you get your tanks filled up, just come in here and check that number. So let's say you get your brine tanks filled all the way up. Right now, we're saying that this PT reading, when they're entirely filled up, it should be close to 13,120. Okay, and we're saying that when that number is reached, you have 18,000 gallons in there. Okay? So if you ever get your tanks filled all the way up, just come in here and double check that number and see how it looks.
And that's pre-programmed in there?
Yes.
Okay.
At some point, Chisel probably, he was pretty good with this stuff. He probably filled it all the way up and set it that way. And the same thing with the lower numbers. you know, he put in 2250, it's 1200 gallons. And that's saying that 400 on each tank is the lowest point. So he just timed it, each number times 3.
So,
Okay.
if that, like, the volume gets off, the total volume, you could reset it on this screen?
Yes. That's kind of the idea of it. So, you know, if you would come in, obviously you're not worried about additives because you're manually filling those. You're never gonna overfill it because you're not like making a product to put in there.
So Mike, what is the one we just put on today? What,
So it
can you
looks
see the
pretty
reading?
good. Yeah, I mean, it's got 3,300 for a reading, and it's showing me, oh, see, now that number went down. It went down big time. So there must be a leak in there. Let's see, now we're getting real world troubleshooting here. So let's watch that number for a little bit, cause yeah, that was.
Looking in the tank,
Cause that was at 3,000.
it looks like, looking at the tank though, at the side, it looks like it's just under 3,000.
Right. No, but see, that current volume is showing 1,000.
Oh, it's showing
When
only
you,
1,000?
when you initially put that in there,
Uh-huh.
it's showing 3,000. So yeah, you probably didn't get the, transducer down on the cap, just a little bit, not tight enough. Let's watch that number. Oh, no. I'm sorry, I'm looking at the wrong one. Add 1 is what we're looking at. That's the one you guys replaced. Sorry. So yeah, that is right.
So the add 1,
3,000.
right?
It's showing 3,000.
Okay.
So, like I said, once you get add 1 filled up, come and check that PT reading and see how close it is to 16,100. Because right now we're saying that when this is full, your PT will read close to 16,100, and it'll have 6,000 gallons in there.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, because right now we're about half.
We're in the
Yes.
process of trying to change this, so where it'll be tanks, and it'll be a little better visually. That'll probably be next season update, but it'll show you a little more clear where those numbers should be entered in terms of how you scale your tank. So basically what you're just saying is, when you get a PT reading, you're saying, okay, let's say it's at the low point, so these blend additives and additive 2s, you're concerned with taking too much liquid out of there and running air through the pump. So we want to know the bottom, more importantly, on the add 1, add 2, and blend, because we don't want to suck them dry. Okay, so when you're out there filling trucks, it's going to stop when it hits that PT number that represents 500 gallons. Okay, so it won't let you draw out too much liquid.
Yeah, because you don't want to run it dry.
Right. So on these 3, that's the number. We're more worried about the lower set point on these settings.
Than the capacity itself.
For brine, you're worried more about capacity, so you can't overfill it. Well, and it's just important too to put in the minimum. So just make a mental note that if you see these tanks getting super low, just come in here and check these PT readings against what we have set up here. So let's say you draw down add 1 to just above the suction line, you know, where those hoses are coming out. Just make a note to come in here and say, oh, my PT reading's at, you know, if that says 500, which is represented 500 gallons, make sure that's right. So, you know, check your PT reading. Oh, is that maybe it's at 700 and it's at 500 gallons in the tank. So change that to 700.
And then your PT, then what's in the tank will go to 700.
Yes.
And
It'll go to 500.
I'm going to 500
Yeah.
and then cut off.
Yep, because maybe 500, a PT reading of 500 will really be 200.
Oh, I see.
Yep.
Okay.
This is like, it's a very, once you understand it, it makes sense, but you have to think about the different numbers that it's representing. So, because we're trying to tell by PT reading what the levels in the tank should be all the way through the tank. We're saying this is your bottom, you stop here, and this is your top, you stop here. And now anything in between, it knows what that volume will be.
Is this pump strong enough to pull those things dry?
Yeah,
Yeah?
sure. But what happens is like you end up with air in it, and then it
Right.
kind of,
So that PT will say, hey, you're getting low.
you know.
Okay.
But that's the only safety feature that there is. You have to physically look at the PT, and obviously the tanks.
Well,
but
you
I'm
can look at the
saying-
tank farm too. So when you look at the tank farm, because that PT is gonna,
But the pump itself starts sucking in air. It's not going to turn off by itself. It'll just keep going. There's no safety feature or anything.
If this is not set right, yeah, it'll just keep drawing out liquid
okay.
until it hits that PT number.
Oh, okay.
But more than likely, if it's sucking air, I mean, that PT read is just gonna drop out to zero pretty much. Cause you know, that tube is down this far off the tank, so obviously, once the liquid runs out of that tube, it's just gonna say zero. So it's gonna say, oh yeah, we gotta stop, because we've said that, this number should read right there, that min scale, or 500. If it's zero, it's already gone past that 500, so it will stop, yeah. Okay, so if you run all the liquid out of those tubes, it's gonna stop. But like what I'm saying is just, just double check it. It looks like it's set up right. You know, as soon as you drop that, PT in there, I mean, that's pretty close, 3,100. It's probably a little high. But like I said, once you get it filled up, just check it. Okay, and then it coincides with the tank alarm configs. So this one's set to 18,000. I mean, I don't know, I would set that to like 17,800. You know, build in a little bit of cushion.
can you change it?
Yeah. Say 900. It create a little bit of separation here, otherwise it's waiting to get to 18,000 to stop. Okay.
So additive one tank is a 6,000 gallon tank, so.
So add one, we're only, see, like I said, we're only worried about the lower levels on these.
Okay,
Because you're manually filling that with additive. So you're just the truck's watching it, oh, it's full, stop. Whereas brine, you're automatically, you're making brine. If it has nowhere to stop, it's just gonna make brine.
Just keep going.
Yeah. And the same with blend, but you're not making a blend, so I'm not gonna worry about that. Okay, any other questions?
Alright, Chisel had a little tablet that was just dedicated to this machine.
Okay.
You guys have been here a while, we don't know if it's been updated, is that